Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Creating a Template webinar. My name is Nick, and I'll be doing the presentation with you today. Just like all of our previous webinars, everybody will be on mute, but if you do happen to have any questions at any point during our class, please feel free to go ahead and type that into the questions and answers area. And at the end of the class, I will go through and answer any questions that may have come up. Also, at the end of the class, I will be sending out an email that's going to contain a document that covers everything that we're going to be talking about in today's class. And should you happen to have any questions while going over that document, you can reach out to our support department. We are open from Monday to Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'd be happy to help you out with any questions you might have. Again, today's class is on creating a template. So what we're going to be essentially looking at in today's class is, by default, every new project that you start is based off of a template in Envisioneer. A template is going to determine what settings new projects will have, such as the units of measure, the building location settings, and any other type of information that you want in your title blocks. You can even include building elements in your template, a complete set of worksheets with custom title blocks, and you can also create a template out of a drawing by simply saving it in your templates directory. To use the template in new drawings, you need to select the template in your startup options. So we're going to first take a look at what settings can be saved in a template, and then we're also going to be looking at how to create a custom template. So first, let's talk about creating a template. So unless you've already created a new drawing, you're going to want to start to use a new drawing as a template. And you do this by just going up to select File and New, or when you first launch the program, you can select the New Projects option. And when you do this, it will bring up the template list. And these are the default templates that get shipped with Envisioneer. And you can use any one of these as the basis or starting off point for your template. There are different options available in here. Some of these are going to be more closely represented to different parts of the region. So if you are building with a full basement, then you're going to want to use the new standard home construction. If you're building with a slab on grade or stem wall construction, then you're going to want to use the slab on grade template. Either one of those is going to be a great option to help you at least get a template started. I'm going to use the new standard home construction, and I'm just going to click Create. This is going to start a brand new blank drawing for us, and we're going to use this as the basis of our template. The first thing we want to control in our template is our building locations, and these building locations are going to be whatever is reflected most commonly in your region. So you can either go up to Settings and select building locations, or if you like to use the buttons, down in the lower left-hand corner, you will see the building locations button. Simply select that, and it will bring up the building locations dialog box. Again, in here, you can customize not only the numbering sequence. So if you guys use a different numbering sequence for how you represent your location numbering, you can add in whatever you want in there. So instead of 1, 2, 3, you can do 001 or 100. Again, whatever is going to be more reflective of what you would use in your office. Same with the naming convention. You can change the names for each location. It is just a numeric field, so you can simply click in there and type in whatever you want for that field or for that location name. The next area is going to be the floor level area. And this is going to be, and the best way to describe this is to simply bring up the edit dialog so you can see how this is reflected. So the floor level, the head height, the ceiling height, and the wall height are all values that you can type in. And it's going to be based off of certain parts of your model. So the first one is floor level. Now, floor level by default in the template that we've selected is set to be 1 foot 5.5 inches above terrain. So when we look at our diagram here, we can see that I'm just going to click cancel on that, and we're going to click edit location on the ground floor, not on the second floor. And here we can see that the 1 foot 5.5 inches is from top of terrain to top of framed floor. So not top of finished floor, top of framed floor. So we're 1 foot 5.5 inches. We're working with a 2x10 floor system in here. So we're going to be using a 3/4 inch subfloor with our 9.25 or 9.5 inch joists, plus a sill plate. So we're going to have a value of 1 foot 5.5 inches because we're also including 6 inches of foundation. So you can see here that the foundation itself is 8 feet high, but it's only sitting negative 7 foot 6 inches. So that means 6 inches of that is going to be exposed. So that is where that 1 foot 5.5 inches is coming from. The amount of exposed foundation, the floor construction, sill plate, joist, and sheathing. And that's what's getting us that 1 foot 5.5 inches. Everything else is now measured off of the top of the framed floor. So my head heights, my ceiling heights, and my wall heights are all based off of the tops of framed floor. Whatever the typical wall heights are that you are going to normally draw with, so if you typically draw with 8-foot walls, then you're going to want to make sure that your template or your template and your building locations reflects an 8-foot wall. If you typically draw with 9-foot walls or 10-foot walls, then you're going to want to make sure that that is the value that's represented in here. If you create drawings and they range in size, then you can create multiple templates if you want to, so that each one has its own template. So you can have a template for an 8-foot wall, a template for a 9-foot wall, and a template for a 10-foot wall. And you would just name the template as such. Whatever the majority of your walls are in your design, that's what you're going to want to make sure that that value is in here. So even if you're designing a house that has the majority of the walls at 8-foot, but you're going to be building some areas that have 9-foot or 10-foot walls, like in the great room, you're still going to want to keep the wall heights at whatever the majority is. We're also able to control the framing options in here for each location. So you're going to want to make sure that this is again specified using the options that you would typically use for your region based on the framing options available. And you can go through the list in here and you can edit each one of these by simply double clicking and then going through and making sure that each stand table is what you would typically use for your designs. If it's not, you can add and edit these to again make it more custom for what you would typically use for any openings up to 3 feet, for any openings from 3 foot to 5 foot. You can again specify each of those as needed. And you would do the same for the non-load bearing walls. The infill configuration is also something that you can adjust. So again, if you typically use 16 inches on center, but you're not going to be blocking your walls, then you're going to go into the building load, or sorry, into the framing options, and you would just say, I just want a 16 inches on center with a double top plate. And I'm just going to say, okay. So now that location now has that value defined. And then I can just simply say, okay. Once I have my building location set up the way that I want, I'm just going to simply say okay to that. And I've now saved the building locations as what I would typically use in a default drawing. Next, we're going to look at some program settings that are going to help with our designs. So to do that, we're going to go up and we're going to select settings. And we're going to go up to program settings. And under the program settings, we're going to see that on the left-hand side, we have a menu that allows us to select different options. In here, if we're going to go in and take a look at some of these, we can take a look at our workspace options and we can control how we want certain things to be displayed. We can also take a look at our drawing aids, and in here we can control how we want to actually draw. So if you are using the program and you like to use different methods for insertion, you can make those adjustments here. So model view, insertion, and editing. By default, it is pick points. So you pick a point, let go of your mouse button, move to the next point, click again, and it will add in your elements that way. You can also use a pick and drag option if you're comfortable with that. Same with single click element options. You can do single click insertion, or you can simply have it set to repeat insertion. We have ours. These are, again, the defaults that we have with the program. So those are set already. But again, you can play around with those and adjust as needed. The next option I like to point out is the nudge distance. And I use this quite a bit in my drawings. Essentially, what this allows you to do is anytime you have any element selected, you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard. So your left, right, up or down arrow keys. And when you press those, it will move that selected element 1 inch. You can adjust this value. So whatever you have your precision set to, you can drop this right down. My precision is set to a 1/16 of an inch. So I could drop this all the way down to a 1/16 of an inch if I wanted to. And it would move whatever I have selected that distance. If I have the control key selected and I press that arrow key, left, right, up, or down, it's going to move that selected element 1 foot. So again, you can control what these values are. By default, we have ours set to 1 inch and 1 foot. I'm going to say, and I'm just going to take a look at the building aids as well. So in here, you can also adjust how you want the elements to be displayed on your screen. So opening placements, are you going to be dimensioning to the edge or to the center of the openings? Do you want your spanned openings? Do you want to be able to, when you're adding in spanned openings, whenever they get close together, you can adjust the separation there. So you can make adjustments to how those are going to be inserted. You can adjust your stretch opening. So if you want to enable that, you can be in a 3D view and stretch the actual openings. The dynamic dimensions. So whenever you have an object selected, you're going to see the dynamic dimensions be displayed. You can actually adjust this so that they show up to the outer surface or to the edge of the core. And again, you can make adjustments to, again, match what you would want to see there. And then the other two options we see here are window opening symbols and door swing directions. You can, again, adjust how these are going to be represented in your region. And again, you can make those adjustments here. I'm just going to say OK to that. And then we're going to go up to settings, and we're going to select document settings. And this is going to be document related settings. So these are going to be settings that are going to affect the document itself. And as you can see, there are a bunch of different options in here as well. So how big do you want to, if you have the grid displayed, how big do you want it to be displayed at? By default, we have ours set to the same size as the terrain. So it's going to be 160 feet by 160 feet. And the spacing is going to be set to 4-foot increments. We also give you the ability to have it enabled or disabled from this menu. So you can put a checkbox in any one of these. But again, you can also use your F keys to turn them on or off. Or down in the lower right-hand corner, there is the commander where you can control and turn those on and off as needed as well. And again, you can go through this list and just take a look at what each of these values does. We also have under building aids, how we want the building itself. So when we're drawing, how do we want certain things to work? So we can have collision control turned on. Collision will not allow you to place objects inside of other objects. I highly recommend having this enabled whenever you're drawing. But again, you can adjust as needed by pressing the F9 key or simply pressing collision in the lower right-hand corner. The other thing I like to point out in here is automatic elements. So with Envisioneer, we try to make it as easy to use as possible. So whenever you create a group of walls, it's going to automatically insert floors for you. These floors are just a surface. They don't have a lot of information applied to them, so you can't actually cut an opening in them. They don't have a lot of properties associated to it. It is more just for an ease of use to very quickly drop in walls, go into a 3D view, and see a floor. If you're going to be adding in your own frame floors and you want full control over the surfaces that you're going to be using for your floors, I would recommend disabling this in your template, so you don't ever have to worry about adding it, or sorry, deleting any automatically inserted floor out of your drawings. I'm going to uncheck it in my template so you can see that it does save. And then we also have insertion by room options. So how do you want your floor, ceilings, and room regions to be inserted? Again, by default, we have those all set to wall core. I mentioned units of measure earlier. So again, whatever you typically use as your office standards, you can apply that here. Again, mine is set to a 1/16 of an inch. I'm going to come all the way down to dimension auto exterior, because I like to take a minute here just to go through this so that you have an idea of what this can control for you. So in here, we give you the option to control how your automatic exterior dimensions are going to be displayed on your screen. So you can go through and you can include whatever dimension string you want. So by default, we have overall projections and openings defined. If you want to show interior walls on your exterior dimension string, you can select interior walls, and then the interior wall section will be highlighted, and you can define how you want the interior walls to be displayed on your exterior string. Do you want to go to the surfaces, to the cores, or to the center of the core? So again, leading or trailing edge of the surface, trailing edge of your core, or leading and trailing edge of your core, or you can just say, I want that to go right to the center. I'm not going to have any of that assigned. I don't like to show the interior dimensions on my exterior string, so I'm going to have that disabled. If you're going to be drawing designs that have angled walls, you can apply the angled wall option. So that way, when you dimension it, it's going to throw in the dimensions on an angle to match the angle of the wall itself. We also give you the ability to control the dimension line distances. So again, matching what your office standards are. When you have an initial offset, what do you want that to be? By default, ours is set to 4 feet, and then any subsequent dimension string is now going to be spaced 2 feet from that 4-foot spacing. So our dimensions are going to be 4 foot from the original model, and then 2 feet after that. How do you want your dimension lines to be displayed? Do you want them to go right to the corner, or do you want them to terminate in a nice straight line? How do you want your openings to be displayed? Are you dimensioning to the center of the opening, or are you dimensioning to the opening itself? When you're dimensioning, do you want to dimension to the veneer, or do you only want to dimension to the core? Again, these are going to be office standards that you would use, and you're going to set them up here so that way you don't have to do this every single time you start a new drawing. And then the same is going to be true for your auto dimension interior. So here you're going to be able to control exactly how you want your interior dimensions to be displayed when you add in interior dimension strings. I'm going to say apply and then OK to that. And the next thing we're going to be looking at is title blocks. So the working drawing sheets have a default title block if you're using the supplied Cadsoft title blocks. So if I go to a working drawing sheet and I take a look at the working drawing sheets here, I can see that there is a title block defined for me already. In last week's webinar, we actually went through and we looked at how to create our own custom title blocks. So I'm just going to quickly go in. I'm going to select this title block. I'm going to go in and say edit. I'm going to delete out this and this and this. And then I'm going to insert a new image. And I'm going to insert an image from library. And we're going to go into, I have that saved in here. And we're going to go up to training and webinars. And I'm just going to grab this example logo. And I'm going to make this, and I'm going to add it in. And I'm just going to go 15 feet wide. Actually, we're going to go 4'6". And we'll just shrink this down. And then we'll say insert. And now attached to my cursor is that new logo. And I have that placed into my title block. I'm just going to hit escape on that. And now I've customized that title block to show that new logo. And what that essentially does is it's now gone in and it's adjusted all of my title blocks for me. So all of my sheets are now going to have that new title block. You can adjust even further. I'll include a link to the class from last week, so that way you can go back and watch that video on how to customize a title block. Once we have all of that set up the way that we want, I'm just going to go through and I'm just going to make sure that I have it zoomed to extents. So I want to make sure that each view is exactly where I want it. And I want to make sure that all my worksheets are fully zoomed out to match the screen width, which is perfect. I'm going to go back to model and I'm going to make sure that everything is defined in the manner that I want. Now, just a quick note here, any element in your drawing will be saved as well. So unless you want these elements to appear in all of your new projects, you should delete the elements from your drawing. So if you've opened up a drawing and you've started to create a template from that, any elements that you have inserted will also be a part of that template. So if you don't want that to happen, just make sure you delete everything out, so that way you have a clean, empty template. Now that we've adjusted everything that we want for our specific template, we're going to go up and we're going to go File, and we're going to select Save As. Now we need to define an actual name. So it's going to bring up the Save As dialog box, and now we need to assign a location and a name for this template. So we don't want to save this to the projects folder. We actually want to save this to our C drive. So we're going to go up and we're going to select C drive. And we're going to go through and we're going to select under program data. Now, program data is a hidden file. So if you don't have this option available to you, you need to actually open up your Windows Explorer, and you need to actually go through, and I'm just going to try and move this over here, and we need to actually go in and we need to go to our C drive. And if you don't see program data, then we need to adjust what we're looking at here. And we're going to go up to, we're going to go to properties. No, there should be a option here. Home, organize. There should be an options button. I'm not sure where the options button went. So let's click on properties, tools. No, it's not going to be there. Oh, okay, I'll have to see where that went. So for right now, we're going to go into program data, and under program data, we're going to go to and we're going to select Cadsoft. And under Cadsoft, you're going to select the Envisioneer version that you're using. So we're using Envisioneer 16. And then we're going to select templates. And under templates, we're going to give it a new name. So you can see here, this is where all of our templates are now saved. So I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to type in webinar template. And you can name this whatever you want. So if you want this to be the name of your company, you can give it a name that matches your company. You can be as specific as you want with the naming convention as well. So again, if you broke it down into different wall heights, then you can actually go in and say company template and then 8-foot walls, 9-foot walls, 10-foot walls. Again, whatever you need to show there. We also have the option to select the options button. And in here, we can control that we want to use the last saved view, or we can attach an image file. So I'm going to use, again, my company logo here. So I'm just going to go back to browse. I'm going to select the example logo. and it's going to now give me that new logo. Under notes, I can define exactly what I want these notes to say. So this is a template specified in feet and inches. The default scale is 1/4 inch is equal to a foot. It is a wood frame construction. And I'm just going to press and hold my control key down and press enter. And then I'm just going to put in capitals here, webinar example. So we can see very quickly that it adds in different text. And then we're going to say, okay. So I've now created it, I've given it a name, and I'm now just going to simply select save. It's now created that, it's saved it as a file for me, and I'm just going to go file, close. And now when I go file, new, in my templates, I'm now going to have that new webinar template that shows all the new things that we've added into it. So when I say create, I can see the logo, I can see webinar example. When I click create, it's going to start a new drawing with that template. And then I'm going to be able to go into my building locations. I can see my locations. Under my framing options, I changed it to be a 16-inch on center with a double top plate. So I got rid of the blocking. And then in my worksheets, every worksheet is now going to have that new title block. So I'm going to go back into here, and I'm just trying to figure out why I can't see options. View. Oh, there it is. So under view and options, when you click on the options button, what you can do from here is you can actually go in and you can select the view option, and then you'll need to select the show hidden files, folders, and drives. So again, we're just going to close this all down so you can see this again. So I'm going to close. So when you select your Windows Explorer, go to View, Options, View, and then you can select Show Hidden Files and Folders and Drives, and then it will show the program data folder in your searches. So that covers everything that I wanted to talk about in today's class. I do see that there is a question, so I'm going to go through and answer any questions that have come up. So again, if you do have questions, please go ahead and type those into the questions and answers area, and I will do my best to answer those for you. So the question is, auto interior dimensions to edge is edge of studs, not sheetrock, correct? When you go to settings and document settings, you can control what you want those to be to. So when you say leading edge surface to surface, that's going to be the edge of sheetrock. If you go to core, that is going to be to the edge of the framing. So core is going to be your framing, surface is going to be your sheetrock. So you would adjust accordingly there. There's also an ignore wall dimensions option, which I did forget to mention. You can have this selected or unchecked, again, depending on what you use most commonly. What this essentially does is if you have ignore. Sorry about that. The internet dropped there, so I'm not sure where I lost you. So if you can just let me know where it is that I cut out there. Did you get the answer to the auto dimensions, or did the internet cut out before I got that answered? Okay, so you got the answer to that. Okay, perfect. So the next thing I was talking about was the ignore wall dimensions. So if you are dimensioning your walls on the interior and you run your dimension string through your walls, this ignore wall dimensions checkbox, if unchecked, it will show you the thickness of any wall that your interior dimension line runs through. So it'll show you the 6.5 inches of any interior wall or whatever walls you actually cross. If you don't want to see that and you only want the rooms themselves to be dimensioned, then you would want to make sure that you have the ignore wall dimensions checked in your template. So that way you don't see those dimensions every time you cross a wall. So I'm just going to click cancel on that. And I'm just going to open up the question section again. So again, if you do happen to have any questions, now's the time to get those answered. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the class, I will be sending out an email that's going to contain a document that's going to cover, that has everything that we've talked about in today's class. Should you happen to have any questions while going over that document, please don't hesitate. Give us a call or send us an email. We'll be happy to help you out. And in the email that I'll send out, I'm also going to include a link to last class, which was the creating a template class. So that way you can use the two together to create your actual templates using your custom title blocks. All right, well, there doesn't appear to be any other questions. So I do want to thank everybody for attending. I do apologize about the internet dropping there. Everybody looks like they were able to stay in touch, so that's good. So again, thank you, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.